Welcome to another episode of GlideChat. My name is Michael Lombardo. Today I'm here with Tyler Hoge, SDD at GlideFast. What's up, Tyler?
How's it going, Mike?
Not too bad, man.
Just got in this morning, so
Yeah.
little tired from the trip, but
Yeah,
it's good
from
to be
where?
here.
Ohio, right?
Cincinnati, yeah.
Cincy, representing. Explain Integration Hub to me as if I've never heard of it.
So Integration Hub, at a very high level, gives you all of these pre-built, let's just call them actions that you can use. So you don't have to start from a green field.
Okay.
If you're trying to hook up into another application and they have an Integration Hub spoke, you can use that spoke as a part of your flow. So you don't have to then set up all of the error handling, all of that other stuff to connect into that application, and it's more of a plug and play on that specific integration action.
Okay. So a spoke is basically like, all right, just plug in your credentials and we're going to link these two apps, right?
Pretty much. And
then it's up to you to like where you want to go in that application, what table, what field, stuff like that.
Exactly. So when they build these spokes out, they usually go through the API documentation for that application and include all of the like update. I'm just going to use like Azure, like update user, delete user, create user. They include all of those
as a drop down
in the spoke itself. I forgot that word for some reason. Yeah.
So
it allows you to get integration or get flows set up with integrations much faster.
Yeah.
Which is great, especially when you usually had to in the past build all of these custom.
The thing about ServiceNow, it was always great for integrations. Is I was not an integration guy, but it was basically like ServiceNow can connect to it if there's an API. It was always, if there was issues, it was always on the other side of the application.
Well, it's funny because I don't come from a full stack world, but interacting with a lot of the doing custom integrations, I really started to understand the other side of that application really well. And I always refer to ServiceNow as it's like having cheat codes.
Yeah.
Because there's so much that you can do without having to think about the back end administration. You don't have to think about any of the infrastructure.
It really
is. So you
is.
Literally just focus on, I need to make this thing happen.
I know.
So I mean, I come in 2013, 2014 ServiceNow world, and they don't have Flow Designer. They don't have Integration Hub. They don't have all of this stuff they have now that could be considered a turnkey solution.
I know.
So you had to build all of this stuff custom.
I know.
Which I do miss those days because
I miss them too.
You had the ability to literally just be like, hey, what do you want?
Yeah,
cool, I could build it.
Yeah, I know.
And now there's so much out of the box that you really have to step back and go, okay, does this fit into any of the current modules before you then talk about, okay, let's do this custom.
Let's build it,
Workflow stuff allows you to be lazy in some cases because I've seen some horrific workflows where you open them up and you're like, where does this go?
I know.
There's 50
never
plus
ending.
like workflow activities. And the lines are behind everything.
I was so...
like
OCD,
I
needed to be organized, right?
I would go in and just reorganize.
Me too. Other people.
If I open it up and goes, I can't.
I needed to clearly see where it went. I took a lot of pride in that, actually.
Oh, me too.
I thought I was pretty good at, maybe not good at scripting, but I was really good at organizing those boxes.
And a lot of people didn't realize that you could flip the choices of the output. So if you had strings that would cross, you could actually flip them, and then you're fine. So, and no one really knew about that.
It was just like a cool concept that you could just build that, And I wasn't a developer when I got into it. Like I used those websites with like WordPress, Joomla. Like I was like and you'd have to do a little Googling, a little coding just to for little features, but for the most part it's plug and play, but to get my hands on ServiceNow as and then, I was a help desk guy answering phones, and to get the keys to the kingdom, I was the admin, it was cool. It was cool, Yeah,
I mean, speaking of the help desk stuff, I mean, that's kind of where the whole IT career started. I always grew up.
So many people.
I always grew up working on computers, personal stuff.
Me too.
Messing around with my own stuff, building computers.
Yep.
And then I ended up getting a help desk job, which is actually a recommendation before I actually went into the whole ServiceNow space.
Yep.
But I was there for about two years.
Yep.
And now, it wasn't like a help desk, like a call. So I was actually the IT for a call center.
Oh.
So now I wasn't on the phone talking with people.
So you didn't. That ain't help desk.
So I wasn't general and public help desk, but it was help desk. You had to go through all the tickets. Yeah. It turned out that I was like the IT person for that company because they hired me on. and then all the other IT people left.
Oh, so you're like
so
the
it
only
was
guy.
just me. So here I am, new to just running an IT shop, having to figure out network switches, and I had to manage the full IVR system for the call center, because they had people calling in, and I had to program. Okay, they press this button, they're looking for this stuff.
See, I didn't get it. I was like literally help desk. This is Mike. How can I help you for over 5 years? Like it was tough. But and then I got to like do the desktop support. So I go out in the hospital. So I used to work at a hospital. The coolest stuff was like going in the OR.
Yeah.
So like putting on the full bunny suit, they called it, like, you know, everything, like the full head to toe suit. Yeah. And I remember being in the OR, like I had to go into an operation live, and it's like a body right there on the table, and I'm like blowing dust off this computer. No, but it, like you know, you
sure hope there's not dust in the OR.
There's not dust. Yeah, it was cool. That was like one of my buddies went to the morgue, saw a dead body.
It's always cool to see behind the scenes and some of this stuff. And being in IT, you always get to see the behind the scenes of the behind the scenes.
Because you're the one making the things function.
During my time, they also relocated. So I had to set up a full call center again in the new office because they didn't have the infrastructure.
Wow.
So I had to tear out the old racks. I had to move the servers.
You learn so much doing that. I mean,
it's crazy.
You can't. For me, I can't read that in a book.
No,
I can't learn that. I need to do it. You know.
Oh, I'm the same way. That's why it's like I never was the school type of person. Where it's like I can read a book and understand it. I need okay, cool. I can read the book, but I need to be able to apply it.
Give me the computer parts. Don't tell me what and like give me the challenge and that's why I like with ServiceNow's like Rise Up program and stuff. You know, my advice to them is like, it's hard to just learn online of just like, hey, go through this online training. Like is nothing like getting a requirement from a customer. I want this field to blink 3 times when this choice is selected over here. And then to like go through that learning process and then to actually see it happen and then give it back to the customer and for them to be like, whoa, that was magic. That was so cool. You know, and you're just like, it's just a client script.
This is a client script.
No big deal.
No big deal.
But you know, that's what I love. Like, you know, it felt like you were a magician kind of. Right. You know?
My favorite part about that was the challenge because going into it, especially with all the on-the-job learning that I did, in most cases, I would have no idea how to accomplish
Sure, I can do that. I'll figure it out.
Now, I could piece it together. Yeah. It's the early architect brain kind of putting together the pieces.
Working back or an existing code, working back, understanding.
I've reverse engineered so much.
Oh, so much stuff. I mean, that's how you learn. Right. Like you go, like, I remember doing something pretty cool where I think they needed a button on the top of, this was like before the new UI, but they wanted a button on the form to do something. And I remember finding an article on the Guru or ServiceNowElite.com or something. And like they did something else. And then I would take that like, all right, I know this puts a button there, but now I just want to take that button, make this a UI page, blah, blah, blah. Like, and just like, so you just stealing bits of code from other people and then like somehow jamming it in there and making it work.
Yeah, you know? I mean, one of the coolest things that I did was a while ago was similar with the UI page and Jelly and all of that fun stuff. I put together this. It was like a major incident review thing that they could email or print.
Okay.
And there wasn't any kind of out of box, like, oh, you just throw that in there.
No.
So I just stole the print icon from another form. I was like, how did I do that? And loaded that in.
Was it a pop-up window too?
Yeah. So it would pop up over the form. It would pre-fill all of the information because it was a template. And I didn't have templates at the time. And so it was something to where it's just like I built this whole Jelly page out. It would pre-fill based on the instant stuff. Then you can print it. You can email it. You can do what you need to. And that was always really cool because it was Jelly. It wasn't even JavaScript. It wasn't even like normal development stuff.
I don't know. Some of the stuff I did in Jelly, I don't know how I did it.
It's crazy because you look at how it's put together, and the most mind-blowing thing when I was really getting deep into it was the whole 2-phase approach that it has. Where
the top and the bottom.
It runs it once.
I know.
And then it runs it again. And you're like,
okay,
I kind of understand it. And then you have to use it.
Does that exist anywhere else?
I couldn't tell you.
Isn't Jexel Jelly and Jexel?
I can't remember. It's been years, thankfully, that I've had to actually put together a jelly page.
Did you ever use Glide Modal? Is Glide Modal the standard now?
Glide Modal, I think, is the standard. They use that a lot more.
It used to be Glide Dialog Window.
Oh yeah, Glide Dialog Window.
I remember when I first saw Glide Modal. It's supposed to be more like UI mobile friendly. I think.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's more portal and mobile friendly.
Yeah, I'm so far out the game. People are gonna be making fun of me. I was like, sure. I still have my certs only because if I lose them, I'm not getting them back. There's no way. I keep them active. I keep them active. Just talk to me a little bit about AgileGenius. If we don't talk about this, it's gonna be a shame.
I mean, for those who don't know, AgileGenius essentially is using OpenAI to generate agile stories for a development implementation project. It really spawned from my personal need working with the GCU. Yeah. One of the things that when you run out of now learning to do, and you've gone through, got your CSA, got your CAD, you've done the hands-on keyboard stuff for a bit. Instead of just going back and continuing to do now learning, and it's boring in some cases, or you're just literally following instructions, and you're like, okay, cool, I get it.
Yeah.
We were setting up mock implementations. Yeah. So me being a lazy person, I'll say not lazy. It's more
that's the key to innovation, right? Like I don't want to have to walk across the country, so I'm gonna build a plane to fly there. You know what I mean?
So I needed to generate stories for a mock implementation to make it seem like it was real and all that fun stuff. So I was messing around with OpenAI because it came out earlier this year, where they had an API available to where you can hook in programmatically, and I was like, I wonder if it can go to ServiceNow. I wonder if I could set it up in ServiceNow to do all this stuff.
That's awesome.
And so I just started playing with it. My first kind of application, I ended up building almost like a D&D role-playing DM or Dungeon Master, and that was the AI, and it would just build all of the content for you, and you would have minimal input. It would just be like, hey, here's the general world that I want to build, and it would give you your classes. It would give you, if you build a character, it would give you the background and the personality.
That's cool.
Like, it was one of those things where really opened my eyes to the power of these large language models and AI, that the advancements they've now made, because I'm sure you know, AI for the longest time used to just be chatbots that you had to pre-program already, and it wasn't anything that was mind-blowing. It wouldn't be anything that you're like, okay, they've got they're thinking.
Terminator's coming.
Exactly.
It wasn't there.
So you'd kind of be like, okay, cool, it's a gimmick. I get it. But with kind of the new advancements, you really started to see that blending between that uncanny valley of like, okay, did someone come up with this, or is this just a machine generating it? Yeah. Where just it was mainly with the mistakes it would make prior. You'd be like, oh yeah, okay, no, it'd fail on this. And it would come through.
Now it's fixing itself.
It's like, oh man, it's incredible. So I was messing with that, adding a bunch of features. I went through like image generation. I went through the speech to text type of stuff, and I tried all of the APIs just to see, hey, can I set this up in ServiceNow? The image generation is fun because you just kind of throw stuff at it.
Scary. I won't mess with, like, you know how people like create their own headshots? I'm not doing that.
Oh, no.
I don't want to see myself generated by AI.
Right.
No.
So I do the generative based on the prompt stuff. So you can just feed it random prompts and see what it does.
Dude, create a monster with 2 eyes.
It's like, can I get just Guy Fieri as a Lego minifig?
Shut up.
And it would give you a random.
You have a great imagination. I remember when we had the first call after the acquisition, and we had like the DJ Honeycomb, and you had the
Dr. Honey.
Dr. Honey, what's up? You had this, like, your Zoom background was a spaceship.
Yeah.
And like, we're just like jamming out, and you're like, I am assimilated. I remember you wrote that. Like, and we were just having fun. I'm like, I like this guy. Me and Pip and I were like, we like this Tyler guy. I could tell.
Yeah, I mean, I do like to kind of bring that energy to it. It's
there's a uniqueness
fun. I like having
to you.
Fun.
There's a uniqueness to you, though. I mean, I guess we all are unique, but there's like a special kind of uniqueness to you. Maybe it's the beard. I don't
know. I mean, I just kind of do me, and if people enjoy it, I mean,
and if they don't,
I don't care. I'm not trying to please anyone. That's
the key to life.
Myself.
There's a key to life. Somebody said this a long time ago. And you know how random things stick with you? We were talking about like somebody in particular, like I forget, I don't know who it was, but we were like, man, like this person's just like cool, you know? And we were talking about like why they were cool. And we were saying like, you know why they're cool? They are who they are. And they're not trying to be someone else who's cool. And we were saying like, if we tried to be that person, we wouldn't be cool. Like it's working for them because they're just being themselves. And people gravitate towards them because they're just being themselves. So,
well, and that's why I do like appreciate the GlideFast culture here, because it allows people to be themselves. And it's definitely something to where you can meet interesting characters, have great conversations with people, and it's not just a, hey, let's talk about work.
Yeah,
boring.
No.
It's like, oh, what do you enjoy? It's like,
exactly.
And you can have hour-long conversations about nothing, and then go, oh, I think we should probably talk about
let's get back to work for a second. Especially earlier on in the world of GlideFast, it was like so many of us were like kind of like, I don't want to say misfits, but like we didn't fit into the traditional work world or whatever. Like we weren't like the cool kids in school, you know, but like we were still like special, you know, and like that's what I felt like GlideFast was real like welcoming to people who maybe didn't fit in, like, come with us. Like you're one of us, you know what I mean?
Well,
like,
I mean, that started pretty early because like 10 years ago when I first got into ServiceNow, my first job was with Vantiv, which is now FIS, or was WorldPay, then whatever. But it was split off from Fifth Third Bank, so they still had kind of the bank culture in there.
Yeah.
I come in, and it's like people made the comment of like, oh, who's that kid in his dad's suit type of thing. So I'm like, I guess I got to dress nicely, and I got the suit jacket on or whatever for my interview, and go in there. And then, I mean, what didn't wear my gauges? Like, I was definitely like, hey, there's a culture here, and it's like a bank culture.
Yeah.
But we kind of turned that into the ServiceNow team is that new age kind of development team where it's not just a bunch of guys sitting in a cubicle. And we would do these tech expos that they would have to show off different products that people are working on and building inside the company. And one year, me and Matt Saxton ended up. We would always make like a video game and port it to ServiceNow.
Yeah.
So the one year we made Flappy Bird. Shout out Matt Saxton, love the dude. But we made Flappy Bird, but we replaced it with this. God. It was like the CTO's head or something.
I actually saw that.
So it was Flappy Mark.
That's hilarious.
And it was funny because there was Flappy Bird at the time. We did Mortal Kombat was one of them, and we did a couple of the VPs and the CTO, and they would their heads. It was Sub-Zero and who was the other one? But we replaced their heads with their heads, and they did all and it was all in ServiceNow.
Wow.
We did a chess one with IO capability, so you could load up a chessboard or checkers. It was checkers.
Yeah.
So you could load up a checkers board and play with people in different locations. So instead of just presenting it on a screen and playing it, we could do it across different locations.
Wow.
So we always had fun with it, and it was definitely more of the be creative and be yourself and show who you are, and people would appreciate it, especially if you did cool things. So
that's awesome. Yeah, and that's what I loved about like Saxton and Cloud Pirates was just like, you guys were just like, it was just different. Like it was so far technically beyond. Like I remember Saxton calling me one day, he's like, hey, this was like way before any of the acquisition or anything. He's just like, hey, I got the war file for ServiceNow. I was like, what? Like, what do you mean? He's like, yeah, I figured out how to get the war file. I'm like, how did you get that? And like, did you
Oh,
know?
yeah, no.
Yeah, it was super creative idea how he did it, like requesting an upgrade, downloading, attaching it to it. He's like, you couldn't download directly, but then I figured out if you attach it to an incident or a task record. Because I remember like there was a bug or something in ServiceNow. I was like, man, I can't get behind it. He's like, tell me what you want. I'll search the war file. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like,
well, I mean, shout out to Saxon again. I don't want to completely make this a Saxon podcast.
We need to get Saxon on the podcast.
But he had a StarCraft patch specifically for him because he found a way to basically inject crystals or something. I didn't play StarCraft back at that time, but to inject crystals so he could get crystals, and they patched that because it was like currency. But anyway, ADHD is flaring up.
Yeah, I know. We were AgileGenius.
We were AgileGenius. Yeah. So it started with the DM stuff, started to mess with the APIs, had a need to generate a bunch of story content for GCU grads to go through and essentially start figuring out how Agile works, picking up stories, do the refinement, all of that stuff. So here I am freaking out. I don't like writing stories. I'm dyslexic. I'm ADHD. Like writing is the worst part, in my opinion, about the whole architecture stuff is writing stories. So I was like, okay, I've been messing with this AI content generation thing for a couple months. Let's see how good it is at generating stories, because I've done this. I know the starter stories. I've gone through workshops. I've created these for customers, so I should be able to tell, okay, yep, it's good, or no, it's got a ways to go. And immediately I started generating stuff, and it was like, wow, it's nailing it. Now it's not perfect, but it gets you in the ballpark, and it allows you then to have the conversations. Because the biggest thing that I always would struggle with is I would have focused too much on, I got to figure out what story I'm going to write. I got to make sure I get all of the content, and I'm then not having those conversations with the customer.
Exactly.
Where I get to dig deep and go, well, why? Well, why? Well, why? Because I'm stuck at the first why going, okay, we'll have to document that this way. And
that's what I think some people missed on what it is when we announced it. A couple of comments like on one of our YouTube videos, it was like, or one person actually, they were basically saying like, this can't you replace a person or something. Like, listen, it's not meant to do that. It's meant to give you a head start in a guide. You may not need a quarter of the stories. You may have to add in, 10 more, 20 more.
You're still going to have to review them.
You got to review them, and you're going to have to tweak them. You're going to have to make them, personalized. But the point is, it gets you further along faster, and it allows you to focus more on face-to-face interaction with the customer and actually solutioning and actually getting to the root cause rather than sitting there typing.
Right.
And that's what I think AI is today. I think it's like when you were talking about even using it for like creating the characters and stuff, it's basically like it's an imagination fast. Like it's got like a hell of an imagination. You know what I mean? And it's like super fast. And it's super smart. It's like having the best personal assistant. Hey, I use it for like job descriptions and like stuff like that to just, even if I have to tweak it, a few times after.
It gives you a template without having a template prior.
There you go.
So
exactly.
It really, the other thing that I kind of want to call out with the AgileGenius is we spend so much time getting a project started.
Yes.
That
I know.
You have people sitting on the bench for a couple weeks in some cases because you're running through the customer workshops. You're getting all this stuff done.
Waiting on the customer.
And then you have a workshop, and then you have to go write the stories, and then you have to review the stories with your team, and then you got to go to the customer, get sign off on those stories, and then you can start to work on them. Whereas that takes up so much time at the beginning of the project, and you're burning hours that you could use at the end of the project.
Yes.
Making sure UAT is good, making sure your go live plan is ready. Because I've had a couple projects to where you're going great, you're going along. It may have been a little bit of some hiccups at the beginning getting started, so you're burning hours there, and next thing you know, you're ready for go live, and your post-implementation hypercare, and you're like, we've got 1 hour left on the project. I know. We need to do a zero cost change order and make sure that we're covering
something.
So it's kind of a freaking out at the tail end as opposed to front loading all of that and getting that quicker.
Any time we can save, right? It's just like it's value. I mean, it's value. Anytime we can focus more on business, and that's why when I heard it, I was like, because you have like 3. I don't want to tease any other ones, but you have a couple other products in the pipeline, right? You leveraging AI, but this one, when I heard this one, I was like, wow, this is easy because we don't have to sell it. It's not going to cost us a ton of money, and it's going to save. It's the biggest value, day one value.
Well, and I think it's something that a lot of people immediately didn't think about. Yeah. Everyone's thought about code generation.
Yeah, exactly. Every single
person is like, hey, can it generate code for me? And then you have the developers freaking out to where it's like,
it's not going to replace you.
It's not going to replace you.
A human, but a human using it will.
Well, a
like
human
that.
who knows how to use it.
Exactly. Because not everybody's using it the right way.
Well, I mean, it comes back to even just any emerging tech that gives you the advantage of speed. I mean, you can even argue the typewriter.
Yeah.
It's like, if you're not using the typewriter, you're out of here type of thing. So I see this as kind of the next step is it's a tool. It's going to be used. People are going to use it. Yep. It's not going away.
Yeah.
And you might as well figure out how it works so you can actually be like, oh, I can have an intellectual conversation about why this is a good thing, as opposed to immediately going, oh, I'm on the defensive. It's going to take my job. I'm going to be replaced. It's like, if you're going to be replaced, automation would have replaced you already.
Yep.
There's all this talk about automation replacing jobs, automation doing this, and in some sectors it is, but it's the same thing as the old switchboard operators.
Yep.
Automation took hundreds of thousands of jobs for that, and now there's no switchboard operators, but there's other things that came from that.
Yes.
So yes, automation will replace jobs, but in some cases,
create new ones. Exactly. Yep.
So it's just moving away from some of the older technology.
Nothing you can do.
Exactly. So I see this as a net positive overall.
Of course, it's going to further human, unless it like kills us all.
Well, yeah.
So that's definitely a positive. I don't want to rule that out.
And all that fun stuff. So.
I saw that movie Terminator.
I've seen Terminator. It's a documentary. So.
It's a yeah. Rise of the Machine.
But I'm like hit or miss on TV shows. Like,
dude, they need to like figure out this whole TV thing, because it's like, I hate commercials. I can't do it.
Well, and it's all the streaming services now. It's just like they
then
shattered it all into their own little space.
It's weird. It's like that's what the internet would have been if there would have been like different internets, and you would have had to like subscribe. Someone was telling me that, like, the person who invented the internet, not Al Gore, whoever like made it free and just like put it out there. But if he like made it like his whatever, there would have been like different internet domains.
And there was a push a few years ago to do that.
I know, it was like a big protest, right? Wasn't it?
Yeah.
What was that called?
I forget.
I remember. Was it the guy who worked at MIT that organized it? I remember that. That was like a big thing. I signed like the petition and stuff.
Well, I mean, it would have ruined the internet as we know it. So
exactly.
Those,
like if you wanted Google, it would have been behind this. You would have subscribed to this. Oh, God.
Well, it was like the fast lane for these specific like streaming services would have a priority bandwidth, and then if you didn't pay into it was like
we got to do this every week. Can we do this all? Like, we would have like a legit Joe Rogan thing.
We would just get on Zoom and just kind of
chat. Well, thank you for joining me on this episode of GlideChat. This was awesome.